Hi, what's up, everybody? I'd like to introduce really quick Danny Garfield, which is the developer for Concursion. So we're going to be doing a quick interview with him tonight, and Mega Pieman, PhD, is going to be the one hosting the interview. So just letting you guys know. So it's going to be voices you've never heard before. And Mega Pieman, take it from here, man.
Well, thank you very much. As he said, I am Megapieman PhD. I am one of the interviewers over on the Games Matter live stream. Games Matter is an event that was originally started by Indie Gamer Chick, and the whole purpose of it is to help get indie games out there to the public. Today, I'm going to be talking with a Danny Garfield, who is the developer on a game. I can't really say it's like a platform game or put it in any kind of a genre just because of what it is. The game we're looking at is Concursion.
Yay! Yeah, hey there. Thanks for having me on, Mega Pie Man.
No problem.
And indeed, Manny, Gaming for Adoption.
All right, let me unmute the game here quickly. And while I'm doing that, why don't you tell us a little bit about just what Concursion is?
Sure, Concursion is a whole lot of things. Concursion is, call it kind of a retro gaming mashup of 5 games in one, such that you can literally jump from game genre to genre on the fly. So if you can almost imagine playing like a platformer like Mario Brothers, bright blue skies, run and a jump button, and just jumping straight out into, say, outer space, and your keys remap, and now you're playing kind of a Gradius-like shoot 'em up. The run button now shoots bullets, you don't fall from your jump because there's no gravity, all the enemy behaviors change, and even the soundtrack kind of like dynamically crossfades on the fly. And so it's a whole lot of things at once, but fundamentally it's about the kind of cool gymnastics and things that you can pull off as you jump from game to game in real time.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting game. To anybody who is currently in chat, feel free to post any questions you may have for Danny in chat. I am reading chat, and if I'm able to catch them, I will then relay them onto Danny. I don't know if he's looking at chat or not. But also, something to keep in mind is that the easiest thing to fix when it comes to live streaming is volumes. If I'm too loud, the game's too loud, or if Danny's too loud, or if anybody's too quiet, let me know, and I will do the best I can to try to accommodate as many people as possible. Now, what is the company that you work with that made Concursion, and is this a game that you made on your own, or how many people did you work with?
I guess Concursion is, well, technically it's made by Poobah, which is the name of my studio, but my studio really consists of 2 people, so it's a real small team. For Concursion, we had myself doing game design and programming. We had Dave, who sits like 4 feet to my left, doing QC and sound effects. And then we had a friend of mine, Christopher Hogue, do all the soundtrack, which is just a giant bear of a project. And yeah, beyond that, we worked with a couple artists from a local studio, and yeah, just real tight, small, and cozy.
I do have to say, the soundtrack is one of the things that really stood out to me, because it's really cool how it's able to dynamically change throughout the whole thing, and each track sounds pretty good in its own right, which we'll get into a little bit more once I get the game started here. Now, something I do have to mention to you, Danny, right off the bat, is I am not a fan that I cannot use my mouse in this game at all. I can only use my keyboard.
Indeed. You know what? I don't have a good excuse for it. Maybe the answer is truly laziness. It's really only the start menu and options menu that a mouse applied, so I kind of figured, good enough? I'm sorry it bugs you. That's my only good answer.
Well, I guess it's more my fault, because the game did recommend to use a controller, and I am not, so we'll see how things go.
I dev on an NES controller with a USB adapter.
Alright, so let's start up the game here. Now, I did have a previous save file that I started earlier today, where I played through the first world, and I'm going to pick that one just so we can kind of skip the intro that's going in. If you could, Forrest, could you summarize the story of Concursion?
Sure. Well, I'll ask you, the spoilery or the non-spoilery version?
Whatever you want to give out to people. I'll leave that decision up to you.
There's a lot of content out there, so maybe I'll go a step further than I ordinarily might. So Concursion is the story of kind of Dark Lord Big and Bad and Princess Honeybluff. And in kind of a really intentional homage to, say, Mario Brothers, as the game opens up, Princess Honeybluff is kidnapped for, like, the dozenth or 100th time. Big and Bad just storms into her castle, abducts her, runs away, and the moment he leaves the screen, kind of these wormholes appear all throughout the land, and those are those kind of bordered dimensions into other gameplay realities. And so the big question of the game is, why, after hundreds of kidnappings, why is Big and Bad still kidnapping the same princess over and over. Why does no one seem to care about that? Why are there no treaties? Why are there no extra guards? And what does that have to do with the introduction of all these different universes into the world of kind of this platformer? And so as the game goes on, we explore what that motivation is. We kind of explore kind of where these extra game worlds came from. And I actually think it takes a strong left turn it's hard to see coming.
So you're definitely kind of playing with the Super Mario syndrome that goes along with that kind of a genre of the game of the damsel in distress.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, by the end, I love a couple of the final boss fights. Actually have the bosses using the dimensional dynamics as weapons. So if you can imagine, instead of throwing, say, a fireball, you might be riding in a jetpack as somebody actually throws a dimension of platformer at you. Which, of course, if you land in it, your jetpack falls off, gravity takes hold, and you plummet. Things like that.
Right. Now, I'm starting here at the beginning of the game. I believe it's level 1. Getting a little bit of frame rate issues for some reason. I wasn't having this issue earlier today, so it might just be something with OBS that's causing some problems. Hopefully, it will not be an issue as we go throughout the game. But the first thing that you can see is that we're playing here as the platformer, but the platformer is only part of the game, as there are many, many different kinds of game types that are actually in Concursion. What are all of the game types that we will come across?
Well, I guess in total we've got I'm going to use their official names we use in production, because we actually designed them as 5 complete games before mashing them together and wrote like a script for each as if they were real games. So we've got Rescue as our platformer, which is the game you're playing right now. We've got yeah, we've got Slash at Night, which is our kind of Ninja Gaiden-esque hack and slash double jumpy action game. We've got Albedo, which is our kind of Gradius like shoot 'em up. Mini Tours, which is our Pac-Man Gauntlet maze exploration game, and Jetpack Miner, which is our jetpack exploration game.
Now, you might be noticing in chat, you might be thinking to yourself, this game's pretty hard, this guy's dying a lot. No, I'm just terrible at games. So, the game does get pretty difficult later on, but I am also pretty bad at it, so there is an interesting combination with that. And there are multiple difficulties to pick from. There is the normal difficulty, which I'm on right now, and then there's a hardcore difficulty. As you can see right there, that is actually one of the voids that exist in the game, and that's why there is a random spaceship floating around in a medieval castle, which doesn't necessarily look like it goes together, but it does go together, because if I were to actually be able to get into that void, then I myself would turn into a spaceship. So
Exactly right. Yep.
And not only would I turn into a spaceship, but also enemies change as well. We're actually going to see that here a little bit when we get to the next one, but every single enemy will actually switch between the different dimensions along with you, which is really, really cool, and also looks like it was really, really hard to make.
The architecture of this game is bananas, yes. It's so funny, like when you were considering making, say, like the lizardlings, you can't just consider what a lizardling does when it's in the platformer, but you have to consider what it does when it turns into a spaceship, what it does when it turns into a minotaur, what it does if it's in the middle of shooting a bullet when it transforms into any of these other enemies. So every enemy in every gameplay genre has kind of a one-to-one relationship with a different enemy in a different universe. And what gets really cool is like that allows for some really interesting attack patterns, but additionally, sometimes as the game goes on, we start to make enemies immune to that effect, so they're kind of unshiftable, and so we can explore what happens if a spaceship does fly straight into your platformer, things like that.
So I'm going to guess there was a crap ton of playtesting when it came to figuring out how to make sure everything worked.
There is a lot, yeah, so much. I mean, we must have finished months before we actually came out. I mean, there's 70 levels, 5 dimensions, all the enemies can do so many weird things. Yeah, definitely a lot of time just playtesting.
So you said you basically made 5 different games and they kind of all mashed them together at once. Did you originally have the idea of making them all work together, or were they just 5 separate projects that you didn't like individually, but you liked when you put them all together?
No, it was definitely planned to be the 5 games in one before we ever wrote a single line of code. One thing we wanted to do, though, the reason I say we kind of designed each of the 5 games as if they were separate is it was really important to me that each of the 5 game worlds have kind of a cohesive universe. So, for example, that in the Ninja game, we're in feudal Japan, and if you were to ask, like, act by act as we go by, we're actually playing out the untold story of the game Slash at Night, which is our, hack and slash game. But a big reason for that was I wanted to know what the soundtrack to each of those games would sound like. So when you move from world to world, you could hear those kind of cross-fading musics. But more importantly, I wanted to know what the art style for each of those games would look like and make sure that they could be really distinct and different. Because I feel like it's really important for this game that you be able to look forward to kind of a physics bubble and know what you're going to jump into. So you don't have to react, oh crap, now I'm a ninja and now I can double jump. But instead, once you get used to the universes, you can look ahead and say, all right, in there I will be able to double jump. And so to that end, we try to do, the ninja game has kind of a bit more of a watercolored style. The platformer has a bit more of a cartoon flash style. The jetpack game is a little more 8-bit, as you can see right there. Well, I can see right there. I'm behind in time. And so yeah, kind of describing each of the worlds independently allowed us to know what the art guides would look like for each of these worlds before we tore them all together.
Now, did you have a lot of issues when it came to trying to get the individual things to really stand out on their own? A lot of games take one idea and kind of go with that, but you guys took multiple ideas and tried to make each one work together. I guess what I'm trying to say is, did you have any issues with one particular part of the game feeling weaker than the rest of the game?
Yeah, I can probably give 2 examples to that. One is, first of all, our ninja slash is a complete puzzle breaker. Anytime we try to do some neat jumping puzzles, we always forget, oh, he can grab walls, he can double jump, that we can't put him here. Or alternatively, we need to figure out really creative platform designs, especially in the latter acts, that allow you to do these combination jumping puzzles. Another example is just the shoot 'em up. Again, to me, this game, despite being 5 games in one, is really a platformer at heart. It's all about from getting to point A to point B in kind of smooth, graceful, fast method as you possibly can. And so making that work in there such that kind of a forced motion moment in the form of our shoot 'em up didn't slow down momentum was always kind of an interesting challenge.
Right. And there are, like I said before, there are multiple difficulties in this game. What do the difficulties actually change? Like, I've been playing here on normal, but what does playing on hardcore actually change?
The first and biggest thing is that hardcore has significantly fewer checkpoints. All the enemies have the same health. The level layouts are almost exactly the same, but there's significantly fewer checkpoints. A lot of levels have no checkpoint or have just one checkpoint. The other change is mostly in the bosses. Their behaviors are a little bit more complicated in hardcore. There's a few less opportunities for health in the boss fights in hardcore. Things like that. I should say, originally the plan was that hardcore was the normal mode, but our playtest feedback showed that hardcore is too hard, so it gained the name hardcore.
Well, old school platform games weren't known. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! I missed the green thing. Weren't known for being super easy. Speaking of green things, what in the world are the green things?
So green things are kind of, well, first of all, I'll call them, they're gem shards.
Okay.
And they are kind of really key to the mystery of what brought all these 5 worlds together. And so in the opening cutscene, which we skipped by, there's kind of this giant shatter and these gem shards rain down all over the landscape and these wormholes open up all over the place. But basically, I guess, to not spoiler the answer of what these gem shards are is very much in sync with why the princess keeps getting kidnapped and what caused this whole event. From a different point of view, though, from gameplay point of view, the final act of our game, which I will spoil, there's a secret hidden final act, 7 total acts, and you unlock the levels in Act 7 by collecting these shards. The more of them you have, the more levels you unlock.
Alright, so that makes sense. There we go, finally got that little bugger. Alright, so there is some collectibles to actually get. That seems to be the only collectible in the game. There doesn't seem to be anything points related, but there are some leaderboards. Every single level has some sort of time leaderboards. And I haven't been able to notice, but are those online leaderboards or are those only local leaderboards?
Those are online on the Steam leaderboards, yeah. All those times are real times registered from past players of the game. A few people of which I think ranked in the top I see in the room right now, so hello, thanks. But yeah, no, those are all real. Every level has a single level leaderboard, which, man, the times are killer hard to beat at this point. They're really tough. We have some amazing players blazing through these levels. Actually, when we first launched our demo, which is free on Steam, we did a competition to see who could beat the demo the fastest, and gave out some free copies of the game for that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. And then I'll say, even as a dev, I got smashed. My time was not remotely the best time.
Oh, speedrunners, they are insane with the kind of stuff that they can do.
Actually, I'll take a question from chat that I saw that was interesting, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Cool. So somebody asked, I think it was Ninja Cow asked, does every enemy die from one jump on the head? So that's a really interesting question because you don't always necessarily have the power to jump on an enemy. You can only do that when you're the platformer. And so I guess the answer to that is the method through which you kill the enemies is always determined by whatever your current power is. So if you're the platformer, you can jump on someone's head. If you're the spaceship, you can shoot them. If you have a sword, you can use it. And the behavior and look of the enemy actually doesn't matter for their vulnerability. If you run up to one of these lizards from the platform and you happen to have a sword, you can slash them. And if you happen to have a bullet, you can use that. And so as the game goes on and enemies start to become unshiftable and enter worlds where they don't belong, and in the later acts where you actually start to even gain that same property or be able to toggle switches where you can turn off and on dimensional rifts, that comes to really matter in an interesting way for jump puzzles. Like an interestingly positioned array of spaceships flying through the shoot 'em up might be able to be jumped off of and kind of cross a long gap that otherwise couldn't be crossed.
Well, that kind of factors into this sort of Pac-Man area where you actually do not have an attack at all. The only thing you can do is just avoid enemies.
Yeah, this game, it's funny, because originally it was intended to be very Pac-Man-like, but the more I was designing levels around it, the more I think of it as Gauntlet, really, because as the game goes on, there's bullets flying down these hallways, there's shields to hide behind, there's all these really interesting enemy behaviors, and kind of only by dodging and understanding those can you really proceed through.
I will have you green gems! Man, the green gems are really hard to get, and then, of course, if you don't get a checkpoint, you lose them, which is always fun. Always fun. And one of the interesting things to kind of get my head around in the game is the fact that your health is basically constantly changing depending upon which game you're actually in.
Mm-hmm. It's actually all one health bar, and it's being represented differently to kind of be true to the genre style. So, for example, the way it works, actually, is you always have 10 health. But in the platformer, because traditionally you would take 2 hits to die in a platformer, you take 5 damage per hit. When you're the spaceship, you take 1 damage per hit. When you're the ninja, you take 1, and so forth. So really, like, when you look at the platformer being damaged or not, really that's saying, do you have 6 or more health or 5 or less health? And so if you were to kind of transform it into the spaceship right now, you'd see you'd have half health.
So it's all the same? It's not... I couldn't tell if when I was switching to a different game mode if my health was coming back or anything like that. I wasn't quite sure exactly how that worked. But it's always the same. You don't get more health by switching to another game mode. It's just shown by something different. So
exactly. You're not healing. It's just being depicted differently.
I guess that it means in some of the games you lose less health then?
Exactly. So our hack and slash ninja takes 1 damage per hit, whereas our platformer takes 5.
Okay. That is definitely something to try to keep your head around. I'm just going to ignore all of the green things. I don't care about green things anymore.
But they're pizza. They look so delicious.
I know, they're fantastic, but unfortunately they are causing me to die a lot. I'd rather not do that. So, were there any types of games that you weren't able to get to work in Concursion?
There was a few that we tried to make for boss fights that we couldn't quite make work. So the boss fights, especially after the first one, are kind of opportunities to explore even more additional genres that we didn't explore in the main game. So, for example, our second boss is kind of a giant Street Fighter-inspired fighter, throwing punches and kicks that you fight as a spaceship shooting them up. My favorite one, and I know Dave, who works with me, his favorite one is Boss 3 is actually a trio of JRPG heroes, a fighter and a white mage and a black mage, actually taking genuine turns off a turn-based menu with a real ATB and like stepping forward, announcing their spell, casting it, stepping back, changing rows.
That
but
is
you
hilarious.
fight as the ninja, so you don't have to wait a turn, you just run up and slash them whenever there's an opening.
That is amazing. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And then even I'll give a pro tip since we're on the stream. Whenever they use a potion, you can actually run over, grab it out of the air, intercept it, and heal yourself.
That's really cool that you thought about that kind of in-depth stuff when putting all these different games together. And it's definitely... you see games that try to put different mechanics from other games together, but you never really see a game that will do it as much as Concursion. Concursion is definitely the most games per game that I have seen.
I'm gonna
And
use
it
that.
works together really well.
Yeah, I think it's, it takes some getting used to, and it can be pretty demanding, but when you get flowing, like, there's some levels where the gymnastics are just, I mean, I'm super biased, but I feel like the gymnastics can get really unique and a lot of fun. Well, that, I guess, to finish answering your question, one genre we tried to make work that we kind of, it just didn't quite feel right, is we tried to do, like, a Mike Tyson Punch-Out meets Pac-Man. So there was going to be like a giant boxer in the background of the maze, taking punches at the foreground maze, and kind of like crunching up parts of the maze. And if you were in there, you die, and if you weren't in there, they'd kind of smash apart and become unusable from that point on.
You instantly reminded me of the I Want to Be the Guy Mike Tyson fight when you started talking about Mike Tyson.
Totally. We also tried to do one where it was kind of a survival fight as the platformer, and the background was kind of like a kart game, a Mario Kart style game. And so they'd be driving through, you'd have to dodge them as they came through the foreground and background, dodging the attacks that they're throwing out there. But in the end, wanted to do more fights where you actually got to beat things up.
Hey, all ideas to work more on for Concursion 2, the concursioning.
Mm-hmm. Concursion with a vengeance.
I do have to ask, I might sound stupid for asking this, is concursion even a word, or did you make it up?
I thought I made it up, and now I'm honestly not sure. We looked it up, or rather, there's a day of like debating names, and some of them were just terrible names. And I threw out concursion, and so I go to Google and I look it up, and I find that it's not in any dictionary, except Merriam-Webster will offer to take $10, and if you pay them, they'll tell you the definition in their extended dictionary, which to me I think just means that's not a word.
Up.
Yeah.
They'll make something up for you for $10.
And so I'm going to say no. I'm going to say we invented it, but that might not be true.
So what does concursion mean then?
To the best of my knowledge, and I'm just going to invent it, a coming together of things.
It works. It works for me. Put that in Urban Dictionary. It'll be a thing.
Yeah, I discovered apparently over the course of this year that I'm unable to use real words for names. We're in the middle of working on a second game right now, due to come out, only a few months out, and it's called The Weaponographist. So
that sounds amazing.
I just can't settle on real names, apparently.
Does that have anything to do with this game, or is that completely its own thing?
The Weaponographist is completely its own thing. The Weaponographist is a top-down kind of roguelike dungeon crawler. And the idea is you play as legendary demon hunter Doug McGrave, who is both fantastic at what he does and just an incorrigible jerk, just a total jerkbag. And so because he's unwilling to save a city out of the goodness of his heart, he gets cursed to save it. And all of his weapons are constantly shattering, falling apart, destroyed. And he is forced to save the world using only the weapons that are dropped by the enemies that he fights. An imp might drop a spear, a murderer might drop a chainsaw, a gangster has a machine gun, there's a pogo stick. There's all these different weird weapons that you're constantly swapping back and forth between in real time. Because apparently I can't pay attention to one thing at a time either.
That sounds kind of interesting. Now, that does bring up the question that I've asked this to a couple kind of developers, and this game is actually currently available on Steam. But will you have to go through something like Steam Greenlight in order to get your next game onto Steam, or is it going to be automatically able to go to Steam? Because some developers I've seen put their sequels into Greenlight, and other ones, like the developer of Scapegoat, he individually put all of his games through Greenlight, even though they individually got onto Steam.
Sure.
So that just kind of, how do you think it's going to work with your game? Are you already have plans to get it onto Steam, or will it have to have its own Greenlight campaign?
We will not have to greenlight the Weaponographist. Actually, we are good to go. But I think it's primarily because I'm a big dirty cheater this time. The Weaponographist, Concursion, we did completely solo. We didn't have a publisher until literally, we had gone through Greenlight and all that was done. And like a few weeks before we released, I realized I knew very little about promotion, and that a publisher probably had something to offer. And so we ended up partnering with Mastertronic just weeks before we came out, really maybe 6 weeks before we came out. And this time, actually, we partnered up with Mastertronic from the start. So Weaponographist is, I guess you'd call it a joint Poobah Mastertronic project. And they are doing us the kindness of arranging all that for us.
Alright, so it sounds like you're pretty good to go. Oh, okay. was afraid that guy was going to go up and murder me. It sounds like you're pretty good to go with that particular game, and I'm glad to hear that you don't have to go through the greenlight process again, because that could be a headache and a half.
It's terrifying.
Some developers.
I don't know how, like, I mean, I got to imagine people in the same boat as us, or maybe we did it like the dumbest way in the world, but we waited until we were mostly done, and at that point it was like, oh geez, I hope, you know, that this works. I hope we get to put this out on Steam. I hope someone wants to play our game.
Usually you'll get somebody interested in the very least if it comes out on Steam. You'll get one or two people interested. But
Yeah.
of course, if you have any questions in chat, feel free to post those in chat. And I do apologize that I am not able to look at chat as often as I usually am, considering this game is taking a lot of my attention to try and not completely die. But if you do have any questions or anything, just post them in there, and we'll... I got a Steam trading card! This game supports Steam trading cards, therefore I support this game.
Yeah, buddy.
Love Steam trading cards. Indie Gamer Chick hates Steam trading cards. I call her out on it all the time.
Why? They're just fun.
I
Like,
know, they're
we had some really cool art to share, and it's a great way to share it.
Oh, that also brings up the question. Since we're talking about Steam trading cards, I have to bring up this question. Does Concursion support hats?
Does it what?
Is there headgear support in this game? Can I collect hats and then wear them?
Oh, no hats this time.
Ah, you're breaking my heart.
I have a Concursion hat, and you can wear my hat if you ever come over.
I'll hold
I
you
also
to
have a Concursion shirt and underpants, but you can pick and choose with those.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Alright, let's try and... It's interesting how you decided to do Pac-Man, because it's not like Pac-Man, it's kind of your own thing. Man, I miss that every time. It's kind of your own way of Pac-Man, since there's no sort of power pellets or anything that deal with the enemies. There we go.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of a weird mix of it, whereby, you know, I still wanted the intention of the game to be kind of get point A to point B and explore a little bit. And so we used the pellets, the dots, to unlock doors. And actually, as the game goes on, they'll also materialize floors. And so, confirmed, everybody needs hats courtesy of me, but only if you meet me. That was said in chat. I'm going to be true to that. If you see me, you can have any hat I'm wearing right off my head. And so, yeah, in this example that you encountered right here, picking up all the yellow dots made the yellow floor appear and lets you proceed. And so, as the game goes on, again, it's just one more tool to make really bizarre puzzles.
Somebody mentioned to turn up the volume. What is it that you need me to turn the volume up? Do you need me to turn the volume up in general, or just the game, or of Danny? I'll wait a second here for somebody to throw in chat what exactly needs to be raised, because I can do that pretty easily.
Sure.
So, you said there are like 70 levels in this game?
There are technically 69 levels, but 70 sounds better.
69 is the best number after all. So that's like 70-some levels. Each one has gems defined. Each one has a timer to get for getting the certain amount of time. So there is actually quite a lot of content and stuff to find within Concursion if you're somebody who likes to collect every...
Yeah, it's we set a par time on every single level, including the bosses, and then every level has between 2 and 4 shards defined. Yeah, if it's it's a really obsessive game.
Do you have any idea what the average clock-in time is? Like how long it normally takes people to actually beat the game?
I usually describe it as roughly, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours. And hell, actually, I'd love feedback from anyone in chat who's played and beaten it through of how long it took. But yeah, generally I say like, I don't know, 5 to 8, somewhere in that range.
That's quite a lot of time for a mostly platform game.
It is, definitely. I mean, as the game goes on, we do some really weird things. So like, in Act 1 here, we're kind of introducing you to each of the worlds, keeping them slowly more and more integrated, but by and large, they're a little bit independent. You know, Act 2, we start to require you to do gymnastics that incorporate them together. But as the game goes on, the dimensions between the worlds actually start to move. You know, one bubble of jetpack will traverse back and forth through a platformer. As the game goes even further, the actual dimensional bubbles themselves will start to get an intelligence. So, you know, one will chase you or evade you. One will stick to enemies and chase enemies.
Sentient bubbles.
Exactly. And then we start to mess with, so far every material you've seen is the same from dimension to dimension. But what if one platform was solid in the platformer but turned to spikes in the hack and slash? Or if it was solid in the jetpack but it turned into clouds in the hack and slash, and so you fell right through them, things like that. And then eventually, enemies start becoming immune to shifting. We've got all the bubbles moving around. Enemies start throwing bubbles at you to mess with your platforming. And Act 7 is just kind of all rules are off. We've got a world where you make your way through a shoot 'em up and you're stuck as the platformer and can't change. We even have a level where whenever you face to the right, you're a platformer, and whenever you face to the left, you're the hack and slash ninja. And so it just allows for really bizarre, amazing platforming puzzles that, I've never seen done anywhere else, because your controls are literally remapping based on which way you choose to face.
That sounds really, really complicated.
It is.
I do have to mention that we are fighting this boss. I hate this guy.
But he likes you.
Quite a lot. It took me a while to to actually be able to finally beat this guy, especially because you're playing in the platformer segment, and you can only get hit twice, which is nice. It's a nice change of pace, because usually you only get hit once when it comes to platformers. But you guys didn't stick with the platformer code, which is 3 hits on a boss and they die.
No, I believe it's 4 hits now. Originally he was 5, and then we took him down 1. And then I believe also now, after you hit him for the 2nd or the 3rd time, he drops a piece of health for you, which originally he did not do.
Yeah, he'll drop a heart here right now. There we go.
Wow.
I've yet to actually beat him without needing that heart.
That's the challenge, then. Big Kev says that he just wants to show you affection in the form of bombs. That sounds right to me.
Unfortunately, I do not accept bombs of gifts. I wish I could re-gift the bombs, but just not re-giftable. Some things aren't re-giftable, and explosives are one of them.
I mean, you'd re-gift the bomb, and he'd be at the party, and he'd notice and tell, he'd just feel sad again.
Yeah.
And then he'd attack you with bombs.
But we've already mentioned that I'm going to guess there are 70 levels, but I'm going to guess there's about 10 levels per act.
That's right. Yep.
And does each act have its own boss, or do some acts have multiple bosses?
Each act has its own boss. So I guess we've talked about 2 of them. One is that kind of Final Fantasy-inspired RPG trio boss, and we've got kind of a Street Fighter boss. What else do we have? We have kind of a Mega Man-inspired giant robot with a blinky red weak point. And that's actually a multi-genre fight. You fight him as a combination of the jetpack and as the ninja. So you can use your jetpack to gain some momentum and take like a really huge jump and slash at his blinky red weak point with your sword. And then, of course, you fight Dark Lord Big and Bad himself. And then there's some mystery secrets.
I do have to say, Dark Lord Big and Bad is probably the most creative name I have ever heard for a villain.
Yeah, we actually translated this game into 6 languages, and I think I discovered in Italian, if you ever want to call someone big and bad, grosso e cattivo?
That sounds so much more menacing somehow.
Signor grosso e cattivo. It is. I feel very fancy when I talk about him that way.
I despise the jumps at the beginning of this level, because they are ridiculously far apart from each other.
If you just hold, run, and jump, they're actually spaced perfectly to do that.
Really?
To my recollection. I might be full of it. Sometimes that happens.
It sounds good to me. As I go in a hole. I'm bad at this game. Alright.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this. Actually, a really important part to me was once you get used to the kind of game and how it works, that you can kind of flow through a lot of parts really smoothly. And so, like, actually in level 1, even though there's all that, like, nonsense of the dragonlings bouncing around and the lizardlings pacing and moving platforms, there is actually one path through it where you actually never have to let go of the run or the right arrow button, and you can just weave your way through it in one pass, which is actually an achievement.
I guess one of the things that we could do is, if this game happens to have any kind of cheats or anything, we could maybe unlock some of the later levels to show those off.
Yeah, if you'd like, I can just email you a save file that has everything unlocked, because we are secretly on Skypes.
Well, we got time.
Right.
So if you want to go ahead and do that after this level,
yeah,
wall jump on those blocks. Changing up the rules and everything.
Oh, man.
I know how to jump under stuff and everything. You guys, you very much made 5 different games.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but you very, very much did make 5 like complete different games and then threw them all together?
We are ridiculously ambitious for a first project. I have no defense.
Okay. Let me see if we can get this thing here quick. Alright. Let me just copy this.
Yeah, I'm shooting, for anybody listening, I'm shooting him save files to unlock more game. I shot you 2 profiles because one of those might be hardcore, which is being really mean to you.
Oh,
so one of those
that'll be
profiles will be
fine.
hardcore.
I can die as easy as anybody else.
Yeah. I sent you 2 save files. One of those is definitely not hardcore.
Alright, let me just quickly move these on. What folder do I need to put these in?
Oops, I'm muted. Those will go in My Documents, Concursion Saves. You should see a folder already there.
Alright, profile1.gmu, profile1.bmu.
GMU, genre mashup.
Fantastic. Alright, let me just open up my Steam folders here quick.
Skyheart, cool question. Once you've completed the game, is there any perk in New Game Plus for switching genre in earlier worlds? There's not. Right now, I guess the closest thing we have to that is the the more shards you collect, the more levels of these kind of weird additional levels you unlock and late in the game. And then additionally, we've kind of got a bestiary, enemy glossary, and you'll unlock more and more of that the more shards you collect. But yeah, I guess the closest to that would be the extra levels, and then also we do have a fake ending, and if you get enough, you'll need enough shards, and you'll need to make the right decision in a branching cutscene to unlock the final act and the true final cutscene.
What folder was that you wanted in? Was it runtime or?
It's My Documents, Concursion Saves.
Oh, it's not in Steam. Okay.
Oh no.
I'm looking around in Steam. It's first folder. Does it just made it? Okay. Paste that right there. Move in place. Move in place. And then we'll load this up and try out some of the levels that I was unable to make it to earlier today.
Sure.
Alright. I might have to restart the game. Is that gonna... Hopefully it didn't save over the save files you just sent, because I had the game up when I did that.
There's a chance that you might have to just overwrite them again. Yeah, it might save when it closes out. Wasty Radio, how crazy must level design sessions be? You know what I actually did to make designing this game easier? So we work out of my house. We're like truly, truly small. But we have a second bedroom, and the two of us work in one room, Dave and I. And we ended up painting an entire wall of this office with whiteboard paint, so that we can just draw all over the walls with whiteboard markers. So mostly it tends to be kind of obscene doodles. But yeah, usually we'd cover the entire whiteboard with like a giant full-scale level. If you want to give it a shot, that was Act 7. The final level is one with facing left and right.
Something happened that I wasn't didn't think of, but now I'm getting all of the achievements in your game that I loaded up the save file. So I'm kind of waiting for Steam to calm down on that before we move on here. But yeah, I'm gonna try out a couple of these crazy things here where you guys get really fiendish in your level design.
Sure. You want a couple recommendations?
Sure.
Well, or hey, whatever you want.
I had already started this level up for you, so that we can head out and try a different one. That looks horrifying. So, this is kind of ridiculous. So, this is the extra stuff, right? This is the stuff after the fake ending?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, this is Act 7, which does all sorts of weird things. Me using... Those are blocks that you'll find in the mazes to speed you up, to affect gravity. And eventually, I won't lie, to make you a little bit blind. This is not a good level to stare at.
Since you guys actually are on Steam, have you thought of any kind of Steam Workshop support, such as mods, or... I don't know if you could really do custom levels just with how this game is.
We do have a level editor, actually. I mean, making this would have been a bear if we were doing it in like code. So we have like a visual drag-and-droppy sort of level editor that, if people are interested, I would love to make public and share with people. I'm sure that people have better ideas than me. But yeah, that'd be something I'd love to explore sometime.
Especially since you're now on Steam, you have the Steam Workshop support. so that people could just upload the levels right onto Steam, then download them.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, man, this...
I'm intrigued watching you play.
I was, I was expecting it to get difficult, but I wasn't expecting invisible bubble things.
Here, can I make a level recommendation since you're skipping around?
Go ahead.
If you clear out of this one, in the same act, there is a level called War Butler, and I think it's real fun to look at. It's a cool mashup of the ideas.
Alright, let's go back here. War Butler, there it is right there. Okay.
So this one is kind of an experiment of using enemies that don't shift in a combination platformer shoot-'em-up world.
I really love how arcadey that sound is when you first enter a level.
That is, you got to thank Dave for any sound effects. I do not know how to make sounds happen. They're a mystery to me.
And now I'm being chased by a hippo. Okay. A hippo being held up by a Birdman. Well...
He's Captain Spicy Mouth. The Birdman is Captain Spicy Mouth.
Was this inspired by Parodius at all?
I haven't played it. I know of it, but no, I don't. Is there a specific level similar?
All I know is that Parodius is nuts.
Yeah. Now, right now you're being chased by a Captain Spicy Mouth holding up a Slurpopotamus.
I think the names actually make it better. Knowing that they actually have names makes it that much better.
Oh yeah. Every enemy in this game, if you know, maybe not on stream, but when someone has a down moment, there's the extras menu from the start menu, and it's got bios and histories and like character backgrounds for every single creature in the game, right down to the bouncing rocks in the jetpack world, which are led by the mysterious King Rock.
You guys got a lot of time on your hands.
Oh man, I wish we had more time.
Okay. I apologize if I'm not talking a lot here, but I am trying so hard to not die.
I can sing something if you want.
Sure, go for it. It's your interview, dude.
Now I feel like I'm on the spot.
Karaoke, there you go. You gotta add some karaoke to Concursion 2.
This guy's name is Vern. Vern was the right-hand man of Dark Lord Big and Bad until Dark Lord Big and Bad got obsessed with this most recent adventure that he did not agree with.
He's got a backstory.
Everyone.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you were interested, every single one of these source worlds has a full story that you know we don't tell. But you know, we kind of evoke a little bit of the world of Rescue, which is our platformer. Within our major story, we kind of consider that the kind of anchoring game. But then, yeah, all of the other worlds have their own backstory because we are super silly.
Well, that's kind of interesting because the game itself is mostly light on story. There's a few text boxes here and there, but nothing's really kind of thrown in your face all that much.
No, you're totally right. It's not a story-driven game. The story just for us added a little bit of kind of anchor. It added something to latch on to, and kind of justified our ridiculousness for us. I mean, the 6th and 7th boss, I am in love with, and I almost wish we didn't have a story because if I'm trying not to be spoilery, I just hands off them entirely. But
the checkpoint is so far back.
Oh, did something bad happen?
Yeah, I ran into a flying alligator, which is not something I say every day. I can assure you of that.
I say it a lot more than I can defend.
I really do like how you're kind of that you guys really mix this stuff together. It's like you've got the void showing the platforms together and just mixing stuff together that I wouldn't have even thought of from the things that I saw earlier in the game.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, we actually had, like, a real strong notebook of level ideas, and really it was important to me that no two levels, especially after Act 1, are the same. But I really mean, like, it was important to me that every level have kind of a thesis and a specific design goal, and not just be like, hey, this is tough, can you do it? As you can see, this one's kind of just revolves around bizarre. But yeah, as we went on, as we kept building, like, playing each level made clear that we could do some other ridiculous thing. You know, the first time we had an unshiftable spicy mouth in a level, it was just like, oh man, we could do a whole level that's like a hack and slash world. You know, being barraged by spaceships, things like that.
Well, you talked a little bit about what were the individual inspirations for each different part of the game, but what was the inspiration to really just put everything together? I guess I could say, what inspired the Void that brings everything together?
Honestly, I don't know. It'd been an idea that I had bouncing around for a really long time in like my little game design notebook. And I have these drawings where it's, you know, a platformer leaping, taking a double jump, and then, you know, jetpacking into space. In fact, eventually, once we were done with this game, I made a little animated GIF out of it that I'm a fan of, that I'm going to see if I can find. It reflects my initial vision. But, yeah, I don't know. It kind of just evolved organically across a whole bunch of kind of gameplay experiments.
We have a question here in chat from Video Games in the Bible. He says, is it true that you and Dave work in the same house? And I think earlier you said that you basically do.
We do. Yeah, we don't live in the same house, but we are real small and low budget. So when I decided to start up the studio, I guess, you know, I maybe make that clear. I started the studio, but it's really two of us. Yeah, basically, you know, Dave and I used to work together at a proper grown-up company, and I asked him if he was interested, and I just hollowed out the extra bedroom in my house. And so, yeah, we work just across the hall from my bedroom. There's a lot of mornings that Dave will kind of get into the office just 10 minutes early and have to see me in a towel.
Oh, that's got to be awkward.
I apologize to everyone who even had to hear that story for that.
That's
there, it's posted to
interesting
chat
work conditions.
GIF that reflects my initial vision for the game.
Well,
Once we were able to actually make the GIF, it was like, dude, we accomplished it!
That does bring up the question of what you guys did before you started working on this game, because this is the first game for your particular company, and what you were saying, it sounds like you used to work for a different game company before you decided to go out on your own?
Not a game company, actually. For years, for ages, for like 10 years, I worked at I guess I'll say the name, a place called Deluxe. Just doing post-production work for movies, for studios. So, you know, code for Blu-rays and DVDs and apps and web stuff. A lot of like licensed games. And I actually really enjoyed that. It was super fun to be able to work with like really well-known franchises and the like. But really wanted to be able to explore like a sit-down, proper, several-hour controller-in-hand game. And so decided to kind of commence Operation Big Stupid Gamble and see what we could do on our own. By the way,
sometimes you just gotta do that, you know?
It's funny. Somebody says that the GIF I posted just now is blocked under the pornography category.
Oh,
I have no idea
okay.
why. It's a man with a jetpack.
You know, to some people, maybe.
Right.
I
mean,
don't know.
it depends what your preferences are, but if you really like jetpacks, then
Does it matter which
I don't
direction I
judge.
run on these treadmills at in this boss fight to power up the thing?
No, you can run either way on them, and then the goal is to fill the meter on the left, and then slap the switch on the right.
All right. I wasn't sure if if like running on one way would actually power it down.
Oh no, that'd be so mean.
Like there are some games that have had that kind of a thing happen, where if you don't run in the specific way, you will actually power down the machine, or the power in the machine up. This boss fight is really, really hard.
I was gonna say that fire debris field, super. Like I think it's super fun, but like you would have had about 50 levels under your belt of practice, and this might be a little deep end.
Just a little bit. I was looking for
if you want a shot, go for boss number 2. Go for the Street Fighter boss. That's in World 2.
I was looking for the. I thought you said the boss that was the menu RPG people.
Oh, sure.
Like World 5.
Oh, that's
I was apparently wrong about that.
Yeah, World 3 is the Final Fantasy boss.
Okay, we can check out both of those bosses, and that will probably be all the time that we have for today.
Big Kev from chat. Not only is there a wolf creature, there is like how to describe it, like a pervert wolf creature. He is obsessed with the gem that he has found, and he will not give it up to anyone.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like when I first entered that boss fight, which was surprising to see the big lizard guy show, because I thought I was going to be fighting him.
In the end, yeah, maybe he is not the main bad guy. I don't know. I forget.
Plot.
I mean, it's possible that, someone you saw earlier in the game might turn out to be a little less good person than you thought.
The princess is the boss, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it turns out she's behind the entire plot.
Spoiler alert to anybody in chat who wasn't aware of that, I suppose. The perspective of this is really weird.
You're standing on the menu.
Yes, I would have never thought about those things working together like that. That is ridiculous. You guys are insane.
You are.
Okay, I want to die. I want to die so bad.
Woman-seeking man with jetpack. I think their most effective attack is row change. Because they all just fly forward at you.
Alright.
Duck!
I should be okay. She's doing a holy attack and I'm not undead. If I learned anything from Final Fantasy, that means I'm alright.
Yeah, I love part of our writing for these three characters is that the white mage is full on in her mind just a battle mage. She refuses to heal, and you'll notice she has cure spells on her menu, but she will never ever use them. And so she, by just reluctance to do her job, forces the fighter to throw potions out instead.
I'm kind of okay with that, because then that would make the fight go on forever.
Oh, the potions do heal them, but if you actually jump over the person's head who's going to grab the potion, you can intercept it and heal yourself instead.
Oh, I just tried to and I got hit. Dang it.
It heals for 2, so if you get hit, you're still up by 1.
I don't... Oh, crap. Okay. I'm gonna die so bad. Surprised? It's really interesting because the controls feel pretty good for just about the entirety of the game.
Thank you.
Alright.
Yeah, that was actually something that took an undue amount of thought, especially with regard to okay, if you push, let's say, the jump button, then obviously you want to jump. But if you're holding the jump button when you enter a world wherein you can jump, does that necessarily mean that you want to jump, or should we just continue your active jump? Likewise, if you exit the dungeon going upward from a Minotaur dungeon, does that mean that you want to go up? Probably what that means is you want to keep jumping, even though in the game it would never make you jump. Stuff like that.
Right. Dang it.
I believe in you.
They're gonna die. They're gonna
You're the
die
best.
horrible, painful deaths. Oh, I hate this one. This one. Can't dodge that one.
Also, if you type
There we go.
IDDQD, then you get God mode. I made that up then.
I think we'll be alright. I keep getting I keep thinking the red line is their health bar, and it's not.
No, it's their ATB. I built an entirely real RPG system for this. Those ATBs are entirely real. The menu choices they're making actually count, and they're actually randomized. And what they pick drives the rest of it. It's
way too much work into that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that. I think I did it just because I thought it'd be really fun. I think you're gonna get them this time.
I guess you're basically prepared to make just about any kind of game now, because you had experience of making just about any kind of game with one game.
That feels right.
So when you think about it, it's actually kind of a smart project.
Operation practice game.
Okay. One of them is dead. The other one is dead. I'm going to steal that again. I love doing that. That is so satisfying.
Oh, I think you got this.
He's going down.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but when the mage's health get low, the fighter will cover.
I was seeing that. Oh no. No.
Oh no.
Okay. Play it safe.
You win a clash, I'll say that.
This guy moves so fast for not having a walk animation.
Ninja, indie game stand, totally down. Yeah, drop me a line after this.
There we go. Nice.
Oh,
All right,
man.
that was intense. That was ridiculously intense. So where all is Concursion actually available on? It's available on Steam. Is it available anywhere else?
Yeah, it's available all over the hizzy. You can get Steam on, let's see, on Green Man Gaming, on Steam, on Amazon, on... I'm going to do a disservice to everybody who's carrying our game, who's I can't rattle the name off of, and our equally esteemed for other friends that I apologize genuinely for not being able to quickly think of. But yeah, all over the hizzy. Actually, it was really exciting. About 3 weeks ago, we were in a weekly Humble Bundle, which was super cool.
This level's called Monkey Punch Forever, and that scares me.
That, for me, Monkey Punch Forever, is a reference to Goro from Mortal Kombat, since this is a fighter mashup. I don't know about anyone else, but the only way I could ever figure out to beat Goro from Mortal Kombat 1 was just to keep jump punching him over and over until he was dead.
So you cheated.
Oh, yeah. You gotta find a hole in the AI or you're doomed.
All right. So do you have a Twitter or Facebook website, any of that lovely nonsense that people can use to keep track of you and or your game?
Yeah, well, I guess Twitter is where you can find me most easily. I'm at Pooba Danny, P-U-U-B-A, Danny. Our website is pooba.com, P-U-U-B-A.com. We got Facebook at Look for Pooba, I guess. And yeah, we're all over the place. YouTube at Pooba Games, because we can't be consistent. We're all over the interweb nets, but yeah, I'd love to chat with whoever wants to chat more.
I kind of have to ask, what is a pooba?
Pooba is an old inside joke from high school that genuinely has no meaning. We were just in a class in, maybe it was even middle school, being pitched to join the school band, when indeed the band teacher told us that he'd teach us to hit the high notes, like Pooba! And I don't think it means anything.
So the name of your company doesn't mean anything, the name of your game doesn't mean anything, but all around the game, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely some really interesting ideas. I've never played anything like it, I can say that for sure. So if you're looking for something unique, definitely check out Concursion. That's pretty much all we've got to talk about, unless there is something specific that you can think of, Danny?
No, I guess maybe I'll just throw out one last shout out for our upcoming game. We're going to be at PAX East, actually just locked that down today, and we're going to be at Rezzed, both in March. So if anybody's out that way and wants to hook up and chat, I'd love to meet with anyone, and we'll be showing the Weaponographist, actually debuting the Weaponographist in March at PAX and Rezzed. So yeah, just digging in right now on game number 2.
I'm not going to be able to make it there, but I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for the Weaponographist, because not only does it have an amazing name, it sounds really cool. So thank you for talking to me today, Danny. Thank you, everybody in chat, for coming out today. Thank you very much to Gaming for Adoption and The Last Ninja Cow for getting in contact with me, as well as Games Matter and Indie Gamer Chick, so that we could actually set up this interview and do it. I think things went pretty well, and I definitely wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, hooray!
All right, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm Mega Pie Man, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.